Welcome to Module 3.1. In this module, you'll explore how to access session data, export student responses, and use the reflect and review and takeaway features to guide feedback, grading, and reteaching. Learn how to track student understanding over time and provide meaningful follow-up that turns student responses into growth opportunities. So to begin, there's a couple ways you can end a session to be able to get this post-session data. When we have a live session going, whether it's from the projector view or the teacher dashboard view, you can simply click the end button here, or you can click the three-dot menu and hit end this session. If you want students to continue working at a student-paced option, then you probably just want to say leave the session so that the students can continue to work. But if you end the session, that's when you'll be able to access the data pieces that we're reviewing in this module. So for now, I'm going to end the session. There is one other way to end a session that I'll show you from the session history. So when I click end this session, right now it's telling me your session is in student pace mode. Are you sure you want to end? So it's going to remind me, maybe I still need students to work. So I can say, yes, I'm sure the students have done everything. I don't need them to make any changes, or leave and allow students to keep working. But for now, I'm going to say, yes, I'm sure, because I want to get that session data. From here, you'll want to give your session a name. So I would probably call it first period with the date or subject or whatever it is that would help you remember what this was. And then we're going to click Save and End Session. Now from here, two options pop up. We have the Share the Reflect and Review link. We can also open Reflect and Review from here. You can generate takeaways from here. And if we had Google Classroom, you could share to it, but in this district, we do not have Google Classroom. So these are the options that we'll get when we end a session. I can also end a session from the session history within peardeck.com. So if I'm logged into peardeck.com and I go down to where it says session history, I can also click the three dots here and click end session to be able to get the information from there. So some of the things we're going to talk about next are how to export to a spreadsheet, what the Reflect and Review tool does, and then what it looks like when we generate takeaways. So first, let's look at exporting a spreadsheet. Now, I can cancel this, and if I click on the three dots here, now that I've ended the session, have the option to export to a spreadsheet. I also get this option once I've ended a session here, or even if I haven't within the session history, I can click export to spreadsheet. When we do this, you automatically export the text, the multiple choice, and the number responses collected in your sessions, along with each student's identifying information. So this feature is great for grading answers after any Pear Deck session. Spreadsheet exports do not contain the draggable or drawing responses. Draggables answers export as coordinates, and drawing answers don't appear on the spreadsheet, but it will indicate if they left a response or not. So you can see now that my spreadsheet has downloaded, the names and emails of all my students are there, how these were draggables, so this shows how they responded to those. Then the next slide was a drawing slide, so it just says if they did it. We had a text response, only one of the students responded to it, so I have their answer here. But all of that information from that session will show up within the spreadsheet. So again, I have those two options. I can do it from when I've ended a session and I still have it open, or from the session history, I can export to a spreadsheet. The next option that we want to look at is the Reflect and Review tool. With Reflect and Review, I can go to Reflect and Review, and I can hit open, reflect, and review. I can also do this from the session history. So once I've ended a session, let me end this session. No, gotta not name it. Now I have the option here in my choices to open that reflect and review. So reflect and review is a place where you can see all of the responses that each individual student has given, and you can also leave feedback for them. Then you can share this link with the students and they'll see their individualized feedback. So if you're not able to leave feedback and comments during the session, this is a great way to go back after the fact and give students that personalized feedback. So from here, once this opens, there'll be a drop-down menu where I can choose the students that I want. Obviously, I joined this session quite a few times, but I can select one of the students, and every slide will be on here. But on any of the slides that are active with an activity, you'll see the original slide and the work that the student did. So I have that for each. You can see this naughty student did not do their work. So I probably need to leave some, go back and, maybe we need to reopen this and do it again. But on any of the slides, I can click this leave feedback button. And from here, me as the teacher, I can tell them additional feedback. I had already given them feedback during the live session. That also shows up here. But if they made any changes and I wanted to go back and score that after the fact, I can leave them additional feedback. Up here in the top corner, I can switch between students. So for instance, this student did a little bit more work, so I can see all of the things that they participated in within this session. Obviously, a website, this was a Google form. I would grade that in a separate area within the Google form. Now, once I want to share this information with students, after I've graded everybody's, I can click this copy student link up here at the top and give that to students. Once they go to that link, it'll allow them to review their work. And because I did join it as a student, I would be able to see any of the feedback that the teacher provided to me there. So that is the reflect and review tool. Again, that's a great way to pass back information to students if you're not able to leave that feedback right in the moment. The next thing we're going to look at is the takeaways. With takeaways, these are individualized Google Docs that contain the slides from your session and the student responses. You can publish takeaways for your students at the end of any Pear Deck session. Takeaways can only be published once per session. So until you have completely finished the lesson and you know you're not going to go back to it and make any more changes, I would not generate the takeaways. But once you have done that, then you can generate these takeaways. If you do it before they finish, then that information is not going to be included in their takeaway and you won't be able to update that. Again, these are individualized editable Google Docs where you can leave comments for students and they can write back to you, which is a little different from the reflect and review where you can only give them feedback, but they can't really write back to you. Once you publish takeaways, a folder will be made in your Google Drive that houses all of those takeaways. And when you publish them, each student who joined the session gets access to their own takeaway only. They cannot see their peers, and they can find a copy of this in their Shared With Me section of their Google Drive. In the takeaway, students will see every slide in the session and all of the answers they submitted to the interactive questions. The teacher does have ownership of the takeaway documents and editing rights to each student's takeaway. They have editing rights as well. But you as the teacher can share the takeaway with other teachers, parents, mentors, or anyone else that may need to see it through Google Drive, which I'll show you in just a second. You'll also get a blank copy of the response just so that you have a copy, maybe if you need to share it with a student who missed something and they can work through the lesson on their own. So to generate the takeaways, let's see if I close this again. It's not in this menu, but again, if I click go to reflect and review, it is within that menu here, and I can click generate takeaways. So again, it'll create one for each student. If you know everyone's finished and you're ready, you can click Publish Takeaways for this session. And then from here, you can share this link to students for them to access. Again, we don't have the Google Drive option, so that won't be something that they'll be able to do. Right. And now that those documents have generated, I again have that folder within my Google Drive where I'll be able to see each of those individual documents for each of the students that participated in this session. So if I were to open one of these up, the students are able to take notes within this if they wanted to. So we could have them kind of go back and give a summary of what they learned. They'll see pictures of the slides and any links that were attached to those slides. Um, so again, they can come back and kind of reflect on what they've done, or see any feedback that I've left for them. So like this student did not participate in the lesson, so they don't have much to access there. Let's see how this one looks. So this student did respond to a few more of the questions. So again, we'll see anything that they've typed, or if once the slides generate the images, we would see what the original slide looked like and their response. If I wanted to leave feedback to them or have some kind of dialogue with the students, both they and I can type within this document, and clear up any misconceptions, or allow them to maybe explain their thinking a little bit better if I wanted to give them credit for something else. This is also really great because they once you're in a Pear Deck session, once it ends, you don't really have access to those slides again unless they're shared with you. But this will kind of give you that place to have some notes over what was learned in those sessions and to see the feedback and ways that they responded to those questions throughout the session. So this is the conclusion of Module 3.1. To finish the action steps for this course, um, in one of the lessons that you've pretended to be a student on, you'll want to go back and just try the steps, export a spreadsheet from it, end the session, look at the reflect and review features, and just kind of see what those look like and how they function for you. And then on the next page of the module, you'll answer our final reflection, which is how will you use spreadsheets, the reflect and review, and the takeaways to support grading and feedback in your classrooms. As always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to your digital learning specialist, and we're always glad to help.